Hey, good morning, Sumit on this side. So today we are going to deep dive into one single simple agent. Like, what really is this? Okay, we are going to try to understand what is a very simple agent. And I thought about a lot of agents that I could talk about, and I think there's nothing simpler than just a file analysis agent. And I think it's very broad that a lot of people need it. In fact, I think every business literally needs this all the time. It's just that these things have these patterns are becoming common. They are not common enough that you see it all the time, but they are common enough that you may see it through other applications. Like Notion has, for example, summarizers and all. They work at a file level. Google Drive, I'm sure, is doing something. I've heard. I have not really tried them out, but I'm sure every product out there, like anything that deals with files, will have some kind of a file analysis agent. And of course, you can have this yourself in your own company. So let's see what this is really about and what does it mean to build some kind of a file analysis agent. By the way, just before we deep dive into this file analysis agent, I want to also show you that my this is the program that I set up every month. This is coming up, so this is going to be focused on agents. I teach on the side, and yeah, this month onward I'm going to be focusing more and more only on agents. The link will be in the video description. Please feel free to sign up. But yeah, let's jump back into why do we need a file analysis agent? What is even a file analysis agent? So in short, a file analysis agent, I think from the name, it's pretty easy to understand is that let's assume you have a lot of files. You can also do it at a per file level, but we are going to look at more like if you have multiple files, because that's the more generic business use case. You have this Google Drive or Dropbox or just your normal hard drive where you have a bunch of files. So you can, depending on how complex you want to make this, you can either say that, okay, I want to do file analysis on top of all files that all my team members have. That's going to become a lot more complicated. So we can touch upon that maybe in the next video. But let's say you have all your files locally. So in my case, let's say, I want to look at files which are programming language files, but you could be doing for other files as well. But starting off with a text file or a programming language file, which are again predominantly mostly text files, it helps because you're basically like asking it to read a file which is very standard, like text files, markdown files that are very easy to read, very standard. So what we are going to do is we are going to look at just reading text files, but the idea is pretty similar if you are reading Excel files, Word files, etc. The main difference is that you will need some kind of a conversion to take out that Word document if the AI models cannot do that by themselves. And that means that you would need some kind of a software in your computer to read that file and to convert that into a text format. But let's assume that we don't need that, which means we straight dive into like having text files, having markdown files, and then giving it to a file analyzer. And then what would a file analyzer do, and like why do we need one, is that when we have too many files, let's say you are talking about your company website and you have too many files. These are either, let's say these are not invoice documents, these are maybe product documents, catalogs, or these are probably your FAQ documents. You have documents regarding how your product works, manuals, etc. And you want some kind of analysis on top because maybe you want to find something specific, and how you want to explain is how you remember, which is all our cognitive, like human thought process, right? We don't remember like that file, that version, that line, something like that. We are not very like, we don't remember things in that systematic way, right? We remember mostly vague concepts. And when we can express those vague concepts and allow the machine to find out what we are trying to find out within all of those files, that's when that agent comes into scene, because agents have become really good at it. So that's why you would need a file analysis. A file analysis, another good reason probably is that somebody external to the company who maybe has just the idea, let's say somebody who's asking a question and they want to be able to search through all of your files. Of course, these files you have given them access to, but you, instead of you hand-holding and answering all of them, just like how an FAQ works, but think of it as a file level. Like if you have a lot of files, a lot of existing documents, and you want them to answer their questions. So their questions are probably because they do not know where in your files, in which part, which file, which section is the answer, right? So they will probably ask in very human terms, like, hey, like let's take an example of insurance. Okay, so if you're like, hey, I want to know what are like my options with regards to my situation. This is my family, these are number of members, and I'm looking for some cover for me and my partner, blah blah blah. These are my situation, right? you could give that kind of a human context and let the agent go through all those files, figure out exact portions and come back to you, or summarize. Whichever way the output comes back, you are still talking about an analysis agent, some kind of an analysis, some kind of a file reading, and then analysis on top. Now, do you want to see summaries? Do you want to see references? Those all can be solved. Remember that it's not different like from an AI agent point of view. Understanding that, or rather giving back references, exact quotations, exact references from within files is not that a hard part. But the most important point is to understand what is this as an AI agent. So we move to what tools do we need? Because an AI agent, if you think about it, what we are saying, and this is a series on AI agents, is that an AI agent is basically the tools, your objective, and the model, right? So the model is external to both your tool. The set of tools you have are probably local, are probably going to run on your computer. Most of the times, they will probably run on your computer or on your own cloud server. And then you have access to these files, the context, the files, and also your prompt, by the way. All of these are part of that software. But then the model comes. Model is generally speaking somewhere else in the cloud. Some other provider is giving it to you, either OpenAI or Anthropic or other models, ZAI. In my case, I use a lot of GLM. So GLM is a fantastic model which I use a lot, and it's a cheaper model for these use cases. So any model that you are connected to, that your software is connected to, that is at the, let's say, the provider level. Let's say it's some provider which has an access, which is giving you access to an API, you are getting access to it, but the tools are going to be running in your computer, which means the model, and this is how an agent works. A model tells the software, which we can call a harness, that software that has that set of tools, and we'll see what tools specifically do we need and what tools to avoid. But the model specifically provides the harness through which, the agent provides the harness through which the model can interact with your computer with a set of files, knowing that this is the objective, knowing that this is the high level, this is what you want solved. Okay. So this part is called the harness. The harness, you could say, is also the agent. Now, tools are then basically, how do you read a file? How do you write a file? How do you list all the files that are in a directory? That's it. That's really tools. Tools are as simple and as I would say, like unit. Think of them as a single unit which does a very specific job. You could think of them as, if you are from a programming background, from a Linux background, then you would remember the Unix philosophy is one tool is one unit. Right? This is a very good idea to think about them. A tool has to be a unit. You don't have to be, by the way, from a technical background, but from just generally, like from an idea perspective, if you're looking at, let's say, take a step back, what is the agent that you want to create? You are like, okay, I want a file analysis agent. Okay, great. What things does a model need to look into, to touch upon, to interact with within your computer to get that objective done? So what is your objective? Objective is like, okay, at a high level, maybe I want to analyze the set of files or this project or something else. Okay, in my case, I'm going to show you an example which is very focused to analyzing a project, but we can extrapolate, and in further videos, we will try different combinations of these where we are looking for specific problems within those files. Not for this video, but at the end of the day, you will see that the number of tools that you need, or the tools that you need, are pretty much the same. Why? Well, you need to list your files, right? So what are the directories? When I go into, let's say, a folder, right, like this one, for example, I open any random folder. Okay, this is my downloads folder, or my documents folder, which has nothing, my desktop, which has all my screenshots. This is a list of files, and a computer can also have a list of files given out via the command line. I'm sure some of you have tried this. When you open the terminal or some command line application, you go to your, let's say I can open the same folder, so the desktop folder, and I can do ls, and I get the list of files. The same screenshots that I showed you here, it's the same thing on a command line. The difference is here, the difference is that when you are accessing through some of the command line tools or in a programmatic way, that's what we really want as a tool. Because when we access the list of files through, say, this visual graphical way, whatever is your, depending on your operating system, when we are looking at this, then what happens is that we are unable to extract this information. Of course, you can say, hey, is there not, there are image models, right? What if they could read the screen? I mean, like, yeah, sure, they could, but That's a very, like, you're going all the way around to, touch your ear on the other side, right? The easy way would be all operating systems have a programmatic way to do all of these things that you do visually. And yes, the visual way is great for us to interact daily with the computer, but that is only because we are sitting with probably a keyboard, mouse, on a laptop, etc. But a software that is running on the computer has better direct ways to list files. Like I showed, this command is a good example of that. But to list file, to read a file, for example, I can go into this. These are pictures, so I wouldn't be reading and reading the file. But let's say I go into my projects folder, and again I run this command, and then let's say I go into my own project, nocodo, and then let's say again I'll do a list of files, and let's say I do nano. Nano is a command to show me the contents of the file. So I do nano, and then maybe I do readme, and then here I have the contents of the readme file. This content is the exact same that you see when you go to the home page of this project. So if you go to this project, which is my project nocodo, and then you go to the home page of this project, it's the same thing that when you go here, you look at this readme file. Okay, same content, not different at all. And then that means that programming languages or software that is running, not programming languages, sorry, software that is running on your computer can have a better access to files, folders, listing of files, reading files, etc. Even opening media files, by the way, they can all be done in a more programmatic fashion. That's what I mean to say. So now what we want to do is we want to allow, through this programmatic fashion, we want to allow access to our files to the large language model. So the large language model can get access to my files, the ones, of course, like all files. No, surely not all files. It's the specific files, and we'll look into how we can limit the access to certain files, etc. in later videos. But for now, just to summarize, we want to give access to some files, list of files, be able to read files through tools. So tools are basically, at this moment, if you look at the code that again, I don't want it to be code heavy, but just for the context, what we have is let's look at this agent specifically that we are going to see is that this is a code base analysis agent. Okay, and the system prompt is that yes, you are a code base analyst expert. Your role is to examine code repositories, so software repositories, understand their structure, blah blah blah, and give me a high level description of the whole project. Right, very easy to understand. Now the tools it has, let's see, can I get the set of tools? I'm guessing here there are a set of tools that we send to it, and here we see the set of tools are list files, read file, and grep. Grep is for search within contents, which also makes a lot of sense. And then we have list files, and then we have read file. Now so this gives you a very basic idea of list files. On list files, here is a programmatic way. Remember, programmatic way for the model to ask for list files. List files will be executed on my computer. It's just some kind of instruction which will list all the files in a particular directory and give back the list, and we will see how it works. We will see, actually it's just very text, nothing else really. There's no magic. It's just raw text going back and forth between the model and my software, communicating and saying that, hey, yeah, this folder has list of 20 files or 15 files or whatever, right? And then read a file. Maybe the model is interested in a specific file because the model thinks this file is important for me to answer this question that has been given to me. So it will ask for read file. When it asks for read file, it'll ask for a specific path. All of this is happening between the tool, or well, the agent is let's say the bigger picture. Then there are these small tools, and then the model is asking for these things back and forth. Okay. Now we come to answering the question. The next part is what tools to avoid. That really depends on the agent, because there are some agents. For example, if I'm creating a file analysis agent, I probably do not want to give out write permissions. That's it, right? So always think of what is the specific detail of an agent. If I want to have a file analysis agent, and I know that most people will be querying information, and I would actually want to isolate it to just being able to read files, I will simply not give access to any kind of write file options, any kind of features, tools which write into a file. So modifying a file, creating a new file, creating a folder, deleting a file or a folder, all of this will simply not be available. Remember that a model can only do what this harness or this agent can allow through the tools it gives to the model, right, to access. So if the model doesn't have access, because the models will not reach out to your computer and do anything, it's not possible. So what it can only do is talk to the agent and say, hey, you said that I have access to write files. I want to access write files. But then if you don't have write files, the agent simply doesn't have a write file tool, then, well, the model cannot write a file. Very simple. That's how you build. And of course, we will see again in later videos how these things can become more complicated. You can mix and match multiple models, because sometimes you will be like, yeah, it's great that I did a file analysis, but now I want the analysis to be saved as another file. How do I do that? Well, maybe we will add that in this agent, or we will create more agents. My idea, my thesis is to create more agents, build many small agents and combine them together so that you can isolate what permissions, what tools are given to each agent, and that specifically this agent can do something and the other agent cannot. It just makes your entire automation flow much better when you use this on a day-to-day basis inside your business. And we'll talk about those are much more difficult subjects, I would say, or more lengthy subjects even, I would say, for future. So what tools to avoid, I hope that gets cleared. Now we'll come to seeing it in action. And this is, of course, my favorite part. This is where I can finally show off some code, which I don't always want to, but yeah. So here it's not as much about the code, because the basic summary of this code we have already understood. It's just an agent which has this prompt. So if you take a step back and you're like, okay, so the agent is really that simple, right? It has a bunch of tools, yes, and it has basically a big loop. Okay, that's it. Basically a big loop. It literally in Rust, it is a loop. It's a large loop where the only thing we are checking for is the iteration. The number of times the loop is allowed in total is 30. Okay, we can increase that to 60, 100. This is the stupidest kind of check I could do, okay, in this agent. And by the way, this agent is also entirely code generated by coding agent. So I didn't write this code. I do not write this code again and again, right? I do not write code just saying this again and again. So this has maximum number of times the loop is allowed to run is 30. That's it. Okay. So that means that, let's say the initial prompt goes to the model. Model says, hey, I want to have a list of files. List of files goes to the model. Model comes back saying, hey, I want to have that file. So each time is a loop, right? Each time the model says something is one loop, goes again, waits for the model, comes again, comes again, 30 times total. Okay. And generally we'll see that our entire process will be finished with this. Let's start doing this. Let's use this. So to use this, obviously you can imagine I will need access to some kind of API keys. So we'll do that. Let's first go into the folder, increase the font size, make it a bit larger so that it's clearer, easier to understand, easier to see, for everybody. And then what we are going to do is we are going to go. So I have this agents folder where a set of agents are being built in nocodo. And then let me see. Yeah, okay. So this I had already done. I'm going to use the same. All I'm doing is sending a prompt, analyze the structure of this Rust project. I could also remove the word Rust. It doesn't really matter. And you will see that it will figure out that it is Rust. I'm hoping that this will work fine, by the way. Otherwise, I'll have to, I don't know, I'll have to redo this video. But I'm hoping I do not have to do that. So that's it. We let it run. So let's see what happens. Okay, exciting stuff. Let a few more of these things go. I'll just press and enter in between. Oh, hang on. Sorry. I should have done this because I know that this will look much better when I do this. So just making the Rust logging. So it gives you colors, etc. Nothing else really. See, you get colors. Nice looking. Okay, more details coming in. We want to see more of this. What is going on between the model and the agent. Here, remember, the agent is just the code analysis agent. I'm talking to Z.ai, which is providing the GLM model. GLM is a fantastic quality, very cheap model. If you're building agents, I highly recommend you using that. Okay, so this, if you look at this, we sent our prompt. You remember our system prompt and our basic prompt to start with. So analyze this project structure, right? And then we removed the word also Rust from this prompt. The system prompt, if you remember, is right here, right? I can increase the font size also here. So you are a code base analysis expert, blah, blah, blah. It's just a basic system prompts that you are asked, like you're just guiding the model to say, hey, go ahead, analyze all the files, dig into it and give me a summary, right? That's it. Give me an analysis. That's it. And then the actual user prompt was this small. The user prompt is that analyze the structure of this project. That's it. Okay. So with that first prompt and the system prompt, model said, I'll help you analyze the project structure. Let me start by exploring the directory structure. Remember, this is a very, very crude way of looking what is the interaction, simply because I'm not saving it to anywhere, no databases involved, nothing, no fancy UI, nothing. This is just raw. Just want you to understand what is happening between a model and an agent. Okay. So the model says that, okay, I'm going to do this. It also has a reasoning content. So the model is switched. So reasoning is switched on. Reasoning is like thinking. It's, per model, some models support it and you can switch it on. I do not usually like it, but we'll talk about it later. This is not really important for this video. Then it asks for tool calls. This is what is the important part. So it asks for tool calls and it says, give me list of files, argument, this path is dot. See, the path is dot. Ignore all the slashes, by the way. They are just, because JSON is being printed. I guess somewhere, how I'm showing it and printing it, I can make it nicer. For now, the slashes are there. And recursive is true. So it is asking that give me also subfolders, like sub contents. Okay, great. So what do we respond by? By we, I mean the agent. The agent says this is the response. And I'll show you this is exactly the folder, just so that, we are not talking about something different. So again, in the agents folder, I'm going to simply do this. And you will see that this is exactly. So cargo.ml, readme.md, bin src tasks. And you will see that there is bin src tasks. And then outside there is cargo.ml and readme.md. Because recursion is true. Remember, recursion means go into the subfolders and give me contents of them. So that is why we are also getting inside the bin folder. We are getting this part. If you do ls for the bin, you will see that there is a runner.rs file. Okay. So it's exactly how it is. Okay, so that was the first tool. It came up with the answer. Great. What is the second? Second is saying, let's see, let me get a deeper understanding of the project structure by examining key files and directories. That's what the model is saying. And then I'm guessing it is going to ask for a few files. Yes, see, it has asked for read file and it is saying, give me readme.md. So it has picked out the readme file simply because that's where, generally speaking, you will have a lot of the details around the project, like the high level overview. Okay. Also, I can see this is a Rust project. Following structure of bin contains the binary executable, runner.rs, src. So it has already, from just the list of folders, it has figured out that this is a Rust project, which is great because, well, it makes sense, right? Because in the files, in the folders, you can see all of them are .rs files. So since it is .rs or .rust, the models know very well that this is a Rust project. Also, there is cargo.toml, which is very specific to Rust. I don't know how many other languages use a .toml file for its configuration, but Rust does, right? And with that, it has now read the contents of readme. So here you can see the contents of readme.md. Okay, let's move on. Great, this is all readme.md. Now we come back to the model. What is model asking? Model is asking for src-lib.rs. Great, move on. Now what is it asking for? It's asking for cargo.toml. Great. So this print is, by the way, what I am providing, what the agent is providing. Okay, move on. Let's go to the next one, bin runner.rs. Great. So you can see that it's going to ask for files after files. And this interaction is very simple. Like, there's really nothing else to it. There's no magic to it. And finally, I'm hoping after it has read to a bunch of files, let's quickly skip over. And then we'll see that it has given me a summary. So this is, okay, it is looking also at the task files. I have a few task files. That was how the project was built. So I create task files. If you have watched any of my other videos, these are basically just planning documentation. And then I actually get the code written. Let's move. This has probably asked for the second task file. Yes, great. Okay, that's fine. We are going to not look at the file contents because, not so valuable for us at this moment. We are waiting for the final summary, right? Has it asked? No. Okay, so it has looked for the migration files. Great. And then, okay, yes, finally, agent result. Okay. Project structure analysis, nocodo agents. This is a Rust project that implements AI agents for software development tasks with a focus on code base analysis. Great. This is the final summary. It has gone deep into each of the files, whatever it has seen, and it has given me a full on summary, including technical details, architectural strengths, code quality, a lot of these details. Okay, and also a high level like a flow like of the directories. Okay, conclusion, it has given everything. And finally my agent has also finished. As you can see, I have come back to my prompt, so my agent has finished. This was a lot, by the way, for this video, but you can imagine that this gives you a very high level idea. We are breaking down really into agents, because remember, the next many years of businesses is all about automation. We're going to automate whatever can be automated. AI will drive all of the boring tasks, all of the tasks that are repetitive, that can be done better with AI, which means that we understanding what these agents can do is a fantastic place to be. Okay, that's why I'm doing more and more of these videos. I believe that this content is going to be very helpful to so many people that I'm already talking to. If you are a founder, this is where I'm shamelessly going to pitch myself. If you are a founder, if you're building in this space, either you're building some agents focused to businesses, or you are a business which needs agents and you think that there are some custom agents that you want for your business, please reach out to me. I'm happy to jump on a call and have a good talk. Okay, have fun.